Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. And welcome to Inspirational Journeys Through Life with Straight Talk with Nolan. My name is Nolan Pillay, and I'm your host today. So, you know what stories? A lot of us have fantastic stories out there, and a lot of us don't tell our stories. Why? I'm not sure, right? So, this is why we have a platform like this so that we can start sharing our stories and help other people resonate with our stories. Now, today, it's really my pleasure and my honor to welcome Martin Salama, also known as the architect of the Warriors L.I.F.E code. And not life as in L-I-F-E, it's L.I.F.E, which we will talk about a little later as well. Martin specializes in helping people frustrated in their life quickly shift their mindset to uncover their greatness so that they can live their true potential and enjoy life as well. An example of what Martin has achieved is a client like Roberta, who lost her six-figure job due to COVID and came to Martin depressed and feeling very lost. And within a short time, she had this quote to say, direction, focus, and a renewed energy around all the possibilities I could pursue and getting back on track to enjoy life, just by following what Martin had taught her. The key to his success is he's mastered the ability to live incredibly full every day. And that is what life stands for, which is the acronym, right? And he also created the Warriors L.I.F.E code, which we will talk about very shortly as well. Martin, I like what I'm reading and watching. So just to kick off, maybe just in 2 minutes, tell us who Martin is.
Okay, so thank you. First thing is, Nolan, thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm honored to be here to spend some time with you. So thank you. Even though we're on different parts of the world, isn't technology fantastic?
Beautiful.
It's as if we're in the same room. So thank you so much. So tell you a little bit about me. I was a businessman most of my life. Okay, and in 2008, my wife and I were working on a project that took us 5 years to get to the point that we got all the approvals from the city, from the state to start building. It was going to be a multi-million-dollar project. So we go to the bank, and by then I've already put in a few $1,000,000, my money, my investors' money I borrowed. And the bank says, we're not lending, the world is falling apart. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And a month later, the world fell apart with Bernie Madoff and the subprime loans and all that. And overnight, I was broke. I lost everything. To the point that my house went into foreclosure, my cars were repossessed. And, we were able to live in the house for a longer time after that, but it went into foreclosure. I stopped paying the mortgage and all that. And it took me about a year till I got myself out of that depression to figure out, okay, what am I going to do now? And I decided I didn't want to be a businessman anymore. I wanted to do something differently. And I thought about my life and what I had enjoyed doing. And I was always involved in community events, and I was always a leader. And I realized the reason I was so happy doing that was because helping the other people that were involved fulfill their potential, recognize what the potential they had within themselves. And I realized, hey, I'm a coach. Why don't I become one for real? Yeah. So I went to life coach. I decided I'm going to go to life coaching school. So it was a few months away, and about 2 months before that was my 24th wedding anniversary. And my wife said to me, I'm done. I want a divorce. I was like, wow, boy, talk about another punch in the stomach. I'm just getting up off the mat, and here she is. And maybe I should have said to her, but I didn't get you anything like that for our anniversary. But I didn't. But looking back, other than our 4 children, it was probably the best gift she ever gave me, because now that I was going to life coaching, I needed to face my own demons, my own understanding of who I was, who I showed up. And that first weekend in life coaching training, I realized that I could change who I was. And going through it, I learned that I was a people pleaser that wasn't pleasing anybody. It was like that for my whole life. And with that, as being a people pleaser came, I took everything personally. I was a control freak and I had a very short temper. And I would, freak out on people very easily, and then go back and apologize and say, I'm sorry I did this, but this was happening, that was happening. That's not an apology. Absolutely. And as a result of going through life coaching, I came out of it and I said, okay, what am I going to do? I decided to become a divorce recovery coach. I did that for a few years. And then one day I looked in the mirror and I was the heaviest I ever was in my life. I'm like, how did I get this way? Because I realized I was coaching, but I wasn't allowing myself to be coached. So I still didn't get out of, I was starting to like myself. Whereas before, when I was getting divorced, I didn't. I was afraid nobody was going to marry me or love me. And that's why I wasn't dating. I was, I said, let me stay with who I have. That was my mindset at the time, because nobody's going to love me. And then going through all this self evaluation, I realized. And one day I said, okay, I got to fix myself. Exercise, eating better, reading better, writing, watching better things, even writing stuff down. And within 9 months, I lost 65 pounds. But with that came a whole new mindset. I went from being self conscious to self aware. You know the difference between the two, Nolan?
Yeah, yeah. And it's that self-conscious that's like so important as well, right? Because
Yeah.
that's your inner voice that's leading you now.
Right. That's the self-conscious is the negative side. It's
Yeah,
telling you you're not good enough and
yeah,
that you do things because you're trying to please others or please your ego or whatever.
yeah.
And self-aware is more of I love who I am, I like who I am, and I have that inner peace within me.
Correct. Yeah.
So I went from self-conscious to self-aware, and I said, one day I was doing something I'm not very good at because I'm ADD, ADHD. I was meditating for 10 minutes. And you know what it's like for sit for 10 minutes meditating, even guided meditations. I was like, let me just get through this. But I had this download of information that I loved where I was in my life and that I wanted to start helping other people enjoy their life. And out of that came live incredibly full every day life.
I love that. There's so many important points you mentioned over there. And I think I want the listeners to really understand this. Although Martin said after 24 years, his wife decided to call it off, right? She basically said she's done. But here's the guy that didn't go into a depressive state, or he would have went through the emotions, right? I'm sure you went through the emotion, right,
Oh,
Martin?
yeah. I felt every emotion you could think of.
But here's the key. You didn't get stuck there. You did not get stuck there because you realized that you needed to do some working on yourself. Now, how many of us out there really realize this on a daily basis that we are all work in progress? We got to be working on ourselves every single day. Because when we start acknowledging that we need to work on ourselves, this is what turns around for us and allows us to be better humans as well, right? So
That's right.
I must congratulate you on that, Martin, that you just didn't stop there, because I know a lot of people out there that have been through like divorce situations or whatever situations, and they sunk really, really low, right? Low to the point where they can't get out of it.
Right. They're in their own personal pity party.
Yeah, that's it. You become, you just want to play the victim mindset as well. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that you've decided to take up you call it divorce relationship, where you're helping other people now, right?
Yeah.
Because it's so well needed, really well needed.
It is. It is. But I since then I've developed my program some more. So now that I had this and I was loving life, I said, okay, I'm ready to start dating because I was liking myself and I was loving myself.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is when I would go out on these dates with these women, I would be interviewing them. They didn't know they were being interviewed, but I would ask them questions to basically understand what their values were. Because as I went through life coaching, I realized I did not understand what my values were. And when I started to understand them, I realized my values and my ex wife's values were completely different. And maybe if I knew this 25 years earlier, maybe we didn't get married. Listen, we had many, many good years, and I have 4 beautiful children, 8 wonderful grandchildren. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But, looking back, who knows? So that was a big thing. So as I'm going out interviewing these women on our dates, and of course, they're interviewing me too, probably,
Most definitely.
I'm like, no, that's not what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And then one day I get a call from a woman saying, I have somebody I want you to take out. I'm like, really? What about her? So she's just explaining to me about her. I'm like, okay. And I come from a very small community of people. I'm Jewish. I live in New York. We in a very small community. Everybody knows everybody. So she says, well, do you know Ralph and Cookie? I said, yeah, I know Ralph and Cookie. She goes, well, I said, they're my sister's friends, and my sisters are only a few years older than me. They said, well, it's their daughter. I go, their daughter? But contemporary with Ralph and Cookie.
Yeah.
You know, how old is she? They go, well, she's about 15 years younger than you. I'm like, well, if she wants to go out with me, why would I say no? I'm over 50 at this point, you know? Yeah. I'm like, okay, let's go.
Let's do it, yeah.
Yeah. So we go out on a date, and what happens is she's checking off pretty much every box on the values. Wow. That we have similar values. I'm like, you know, this is crazy. We go out again, same thing. And it's growing, About a month into it, and not too many times did I go out on more than 2 or maybe 3 dates with someone. So now it's about a month into it. I turned to her, I said, I got to tell you something. And I don't need for you to tell me anything, but I want to tell it to you, just so you see where I am in my world and my life and all that. I'm falling in love with you. Wow. Because you like who you see as I am, and you're not trying to change me. And I like you as you are. I love who you are, and I don't want to change you. About a month later, she said, I love you too. And beautiful. We've been married for almost 5 years.
Wow. What a story. Congratulations on that. That's beautiful. That's soul connection, right? That's your soul that you found. So it's never too late, right?
No, never too late. Never too late. Wow. So now it's 2020, right? And the world, something happens in the world in 2020, right? And everybody's running around saying the sky is falling. They're all Chicken Little, worried that the world is going to fall apart. And what are we going to do? And now it's about May, 2 months into this. And I look at my wife and I go, I don't understand. Why is everybody worried?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wait a minute, why am I not worried? That maybe should be the question I should be asking. Because maybe I'm missing something here. Yeah. I'm like, we talked about it. I go, no, I'm not missing anything. Everybody's just afraid. And I realized that the last 10, 12 years of my life, going through losing all the money, the divorce, getting heavy and coming around through it, finding somebody, all that prepared me for anything that was going to come. My mindset was ready for anything.
Wow.
Even COVID. So I got onto Facebook and I said, guys, I see it. I understand it. Everybody's worried. I know, I get it. But I want to show you how to go from being a worrier to a warrior. And that's where the Warriors Life Code was created. Because to me, a warrior is someone who goes through adversity. And I've yet to meet someone in my life, and I don't think I ever will, that has not had some kind of adversity in their life.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody has adversity. But they go through adversity and they come out stronger. They didn't go into the pity party and say, woe is me. So that's my goal, is to help people become warriors in their own lives.
Wow. That's beautiful. So we're going to be talking more about that as well. And I like that you said there's so many people that can come out from situations if they just make that choice, right? I mean, I've lived through this COVID thing as well. I almost lost my life through COVID, but again, like what you just said, it's taking that painful moment and turning it into a success story, not allowing that obstacle just to stop your life wherever it is. You're pushing on forward, you're being resilient enough, and you're moving forward stronger than ever, right? So you spoke about your emotions as well, right? How did it affect you acting in certain situations? And, you know, especially when you're going out on these dates and checking out or interviewing these ladies.
So what happened to me was, when I went through life coaching, I started to realize all of these things that were my default tendencies, that I was a people pleaser, that I had a short temper, that I took everything personally. I felt like the world was on my shoulders, and that I was a control freak. And then I read a book as I was going to life coaching school. It was actually right at around about that time, because they gave us a list of books. Oh, read some of these books before you start the training. One of them was called The 4 Agreements. Have you ever read that book?
No. 4 Agreements.
Okay, well, you should read it. You should read it. It's called The 4 Agreements. It's by Don Miguel Ruiz.
Okay. Don Miguel Ruiz. Okay.
Here it is.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is on video, but The 4 Agreements. So The 4 Agreements, and the second one changed my life. The second one is, don't take anything personally. So I was like, whoa, don't take anything personally. That's an interesting concept. And as I'm looking back now, It was as if he told me a secret that people had been telling me my entire life. But until that moment, I wasn't ready to hear it. It was as if I walked into a completely dark stadium and he flipped on all the lights. Can you imagine what that's like? Imagine you go into a football game, right, or a rugby game, and it's fully dark. And then all of a sudden somebody flips on the lights. What happens to you? Whoa!
Yeah, you're scared.
That's what happened to me.
Sure.
And I was like, go ahead.
No, so it was a good scare, right?
It was a good scare. It was a good scare. So just so you know, the other 4 agreements is, number 1, be impeccable with your words. Number 2, don't take anything personally. Number 3, don't make any assumptions. And number 4, always do your best. They've all affected me, every single one. But that second one was going right to the core of my issues. If somebody said something to me, I took it personally, and I was ready to react, to overreact, to be like a nuclear reactor, leaving fallout all over the place.
Wow.
Because I didn't care. I needed to get myself heard because somebody insulted me. Or I thought that they were insulting me.
Perception, right? Perception. I can so relate to that, Martin. I've been in situations like that personally as well, where I felt that I was taking things personally. And until you grow up and learn where you just need to pause, breathe, try to understand what the person is actually saying, and then react from there. And to the point where now I just love negative criticism because it only allows me to be better, right?
Yeah. But you know what? You say grow up. It took me till I was about 50 to grow up about that.
It's never too late. It's never too late, right?
Exactly. Yeah. But now I learned, now that I understood this, I had to figure out how to change that. Now, it didn't happen overnight. It's not like I said, okay, I'm never going to take anything personally again, and tomorrow I wake up and everything's wonderful and beautiful. It took work.
Yeah.
And I'm being honest about it, because anybody who thinks that I have the magic pill, or anybody has the magic pill, the magic bullet, as it were, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You got to put in the work. So I was determined to change. And maybe in the beginning, a part of it was about my wife, and a part of it was about my children and all that. But as it went on, I finally realized that it can't be about them. Because if it is about anybody else, then it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
You know, they teach you that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, because the old dog is tired and he doesn't want to learn new tricks.
True.
But if you're an old dog who says, I don't like where I am in my life, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes, then you can learn new tricks.
You can change. You can change.
Yep.
And it's high time as men that we really need to understand that we need to look after ourselves. We need to love ourselves. We're not these robots that can operate just 24/7 as well. It got to start from here. So the other point you mentioned is you decided to start loving yourself more, because when you started to love yourself more, you could love somebody else more. You could
exactly right. So it's so true what you said there about taking care of ourselves, and women especially, mothers feel like they've got to take care of their kids and then they'll take care of themselves.
Yeah.
No, take care of yourself first, and then it's the airplane syndrome.
Exactly.
You get on the airplane and they're giving you the instructions in case of an emergency. What do? You put the mask on you first, because how can you put the mask on someone else first if you can't breathe?
Yeah, true.
Because if you're not breathing, you're not thinking straight.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you for sharing that, Martin. So, to our listeners out there, we're talking about emotions and feelings. So just stay tuned. We're going to be returning now, where we're going to dig deeper into emotions and feelings. We've got Martin Salama on the call. He's from Warriors L.I.F.E. So we're going to talk a bit more about his program now as well. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with you.
Crossing the United States to his native South Africa, Nolan continues to push barriers and inspire people to inspire themselves. And you could be next. Join Nolan's 7-day online groundbreaking program called Obstacles Make Me Stronger, aimed at teaching you how to overcome any obstacles you may face, break barriers, be innovative, and take control of your life. For more information, check out Obstacles Make Me Stronger, now on Udemy.
Welcome back to Inspirational Journeys Through Life with Straight Talk with Nolan. We got Martin Salama on the call today, and we're talking about how you can build your emotional strength and the 4 steps to keep your feeling from ruling your actions. So now we're going to dive into the difference between emotions and feelings. So Martin, tell us about these differences between emotions and feelings.
Okay, so I put together what I call a card deck. Okay, here's what it looks like. It's called the Warrior to Warrior card deck, and really what it is, it's like an introduction to my course, to my coaching course, because it gives you an idea of what's going on, could go into deeper on my course. So one of them I call the Warriors L.I.F.E code method to build your emotional strength and rule your actions. Right? 4 steps, 4 steps to keep your feelings from ruling your actions. And you said something, what's the difference between emotions and feelings? So most people think it's the same thing. And they're really not the same thing. Emotions is that an instant feeling you get when something happens. Anger, fear, happy, joy, whatever. There's like a bunch of them. Okay? And then it's what kind of an emotion, what kind of a feeling am I having that's associated with that emotion? Because an emotion is something that could be fleeting. It's there. But the feeling is something that could last a long time. Okay? For example, you're angry. What type of anger are you? Are you enraged? Or are you just a little ticked off?
Okay.
There's a whole range. So there's a thing I do in my course where I go through a chart that shows what the emotions are and the feelings associated with them.
Okay.
Right. And I call it the L.I.F.E code method, L-I-F-E. And I'm going to use life again in a different way. Because I have to tell you, your audience is saying, boy, he likes acronyms. I love acronyms. You know why? It's a great way to remember things.
Right.
It's like songs. You may not hear a song for 50 years, and all of a sudden it comes on the radio, and you remember every word as if you were singing it 5 minutes ago.
Yep.
How crazy is when that happens? But if somebody tells you, oh, give me the words to this song, right? Just tell me the words to the song. You can't remember them. It just goes out of your head. But as soon as the music starts and the guy or the girl says a few words, the song comes back to your head and you start singing it. There's something about it.
Yes.
So I feel the same way about acronyms. So I took the L.I.F.E acronym and I built it into my program, the 4 method, the L.I.F.E code method to control your life. Because what was happening to me was I was allowing my emotions to control my actions. I'm angry. What's the first thing I do? I run into the burning building.
Right, yeah.
Right? I'm angry. I call up my wife and I rip her to shreds. I'm angry. I'm afraid. What do? I start getting nervous. I start thinking what's going to happen. I worry. And there's a big difference between worry and concern, but that's another story. So number 1, L, listen to your inner voice and acknowledge your feelings. Okay, so you're feeling an emotion. Listen to your inner voice and acknowledge that you're feeling that emotion, that feeling.
Okay.
Next, I, identify what those feelings are. I'm angry. What kind of anger am I? Is it strong, medium, or light? Right? F,
Okay.
find out why. Question yourself. Why am I feeling this? Almost as if you're on trial with yourself and you're cross-examining. You got to do the work here. You got to figure it out, right? And you go, okay, why am I feeling this? Is it helping me or is it hurting me? Did that person that made me feel this way hurt me or help me, right? And go deep. And I give them all these, I mean, it's on a card here, right?
Yeah.
Let's see it very well. There we go.
Yep.
It's on a card here, but they could also get a sheet with all these things in it. They could write down what's going on, because that's what I do when I'm feeling that thing. And then E, engage in change and take action. So what does that mean? That doesn't mean you necessarily do it at that moment. You may say, okay, this is what I'm feeling. This is the type of feeling I am. This is why I'm feeling it. And this is what I'm going to do, and write it in my calendar and when I'm going to do it. And now you have a game plan. Now, it doesn't know, you can't do that all the time. It all depends on what the situation is. But if you start to build your mind, your memory muscle in that way, when those things come up, it could happen quickly because you're learning how to go through it. The first thing is recognizing that you're getting into those situations. Because usually what's happening is you're in the middle of it and you're hot, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know?
All hell breaks loose.
Exactly.
Wow. I like you spoke about asking yourself these hard questions as well. And that's so true as well, right? I mean, we all grew up never wanting to ask those hard, difficult questions, right? But in the background, when we start asking ourselves these hard questions, what we're actually doing to ourselves is we're doing some inner work, some shadow work. And when we start doing that shadow work, there's so many answers are going to be coming to us. And again, what do you do with the answers? You got to work on them, right?
Exactly. So how about if I give your audience an example?
Yeah, let's do it.
A real life example.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was a couple of years after my divorce. My son was getting married. And my ex-wife lives about an hour away from me. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm Jewish. Yeah. And on Saturdays, I don't travel. You know, from Friday night to Saturday night, I practice. I practice the Sabbath. So he was getting married, and there's a tradition in my community that many people do, is the Saturday before you go to synagogue, the boy goes up to the Torah, he gets, you know, some honors, and you have a lunch for him. So, you know, he was going to be in New Jersey, and I heard nothing about what he was going to do with it. Like I said, it doesn't happen all the time. My son comes back to New York on the day after, and he says, "Oh my God, Dad, I'm so embarrassed. I'm so sorry. Mommy had lunch and you weren't there."
Wow.
I was like, it's not your fault. Thank you for telling me. So, first thing is, I was angry. Okay. I recognized that I was angry because of what was going on here. Now, the old me would have picked up the phone right there 3 days before the wedding and ripped into my ex for an hour without taking a breath. I would have gone straight at it. But I said, you know what? I listened to my feeling and I said, where do I feel this? Right? I identified what my feeling was. First, I listened to my inner voice. What am I feeling? Hold it. I'm really upset. I'm really angry. I'm enraged. That's the type of feeling I'm having. Why? Why am I feeling this? Because my ex has decided that to my children, I am not important. And that's not acceptable. But what am I going to do about it? So that's fine. I questioned it. And why did she do this? Because of my old habits, because of my thing, because she wants to stick it to me, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. I came up with all these things in my head. I wrote them down. So then I said, what? Now I got to do E. I got to engage in change and take action. So I said, when am I going to do that? The old me would have been on the phone already. I wouldn't have even waited for the last word to come out of my son's mouth. I said, listen, to myself, Wednesday's the wedding. What good is it going to do for me to call her right now and rip her? Who's going to benefit? Not me, not her, not my children, not anybody that finds out that I did this 2 days before the wedding. Right? And there's going to be a pall over the wedding. Everybody's going to be upset because of what I did. So I said, you know what? I'm going to wait until after. So 2 days after the wedding, I called her up. And in a controlled anger, you know, people think that life coaching is about never getting angry. That's not what it's about. It's about understanding your emotions and how to work through them. So in a controlled anger, I called her up and I said, this is what you did. This is the message you sent to our children. And I went on for a little bit and I vented the way I had a right to do. And I ended it by saying, thank you for divorcing me. Yeah. At that moment, it was closure because I realized that I should have never been married to her. And it's the last thing I should ever want in my life again is to be married to her.
Wow. Well done on that, right? So to the listeners out there, one important lesson that Martin just mentioned is controlled anger. Because how many of you out there react just out of anger and end up the next day or the next hour or the next minute wondering, why the hell did I do that? Because in that angry state, you could cause an accident. You could hurt somebody badly. You could hurt somebody's feelings, etc. So this controlled anger that Martin is talking about, I encourage every single one of you to go and look up Martin. We're going to have his contact details at the end of this interview as well. Get in touch with Martin and understand how you can control your anger. Because, Martin, let's be honest, you look at the world, there's millions, if not billions, of angry people walking around. Right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. As a matter of fact, I have something in my course that I do early on as a precursor to this. Okay, it's in my cards as well. And remember when we were kids or your children were kids and they went to school and the firefighter came to school here in America, and the firefighter comes, they teach them 3 words to do in case of a fire. If you're in a room or in a building with a fire, there's 3 things you should do, right? And the kids come home and they say, Daddy, I learned what to do in a fire. What do? Stop, drop, and roll. Stop what you're doing, drop to the floor, under the smoke, and roll to the door or roll out away from it. Stop, drop, and roll. So I realized early on, so I said this is early, that I need to do something similar to that when I'm in a situation where I'm getting hot under the collar. So I changed it to stop, think, and respond.
Yeah.
Instead of react. Instead of react and then think and then figure out what happened. Stop right there. Think about what's going on. Is this am I taking this personally? Is this going to affect me in the long run? Maybe it's about them and not about me, all these things. And then respond based on how you're feeling.
True.
So, yeah.
And you know, it's also important to know that whatever action the other person is doing, you got no control over that action.
None.
It's like what your ex-wife did is she did it because she had her own reasons for doing it as well, be it whether to spite you or to make you angry, etc. But this is what you did, Martin, right? You turned this around. You showed her that you were not angry. You handled it.
Oh, I was angry. I showed her I was angry, but in a good way.
In a good way, in a controlled anger, right? And that's the beauty of
it. To me whether she got it or not. I didn't get it.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, she probably didn't get it, which is fine. That's on her.
Yeah, that's it. And you see how the universe directed you into closure?
Yeah. By the way, I want to mention, I have a fantastic relationship with my ex-wife right now.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Okay. We still have 4 children together and 8 grandchildren. And a lot of that had to come from me doing my work and her doing her own work. We're both happily married to different people.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it's always good to keep a good relationship, right? Especially when there's kids and grandkids involved as well.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, well done to both of you on acknowledging that, yes, you couldn't stay together any longer. You couldn't stay as a married couple. You could still go your separate ways, get married, but still keep this family bond going as well. And it can only come.
It took a long time for me to get there. She got there faster than me. She's the one that asked for the divorce, but I'm there now.
Well, I'm glad that things are working out so well for you, Martin, as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing with the audience today as well. There's so many golden nuggets, and trust me, to the audience, we'll put in the snippets as well. I'll type that in for you on all the important points from this conversation. So Martin, I mean, we spoke a little about self-consciousness and self-awareness, right? I like to think of it as the way that I go about my life these days is I'm consciously aware every single time something happens. And when I'm more consciously aware of something happening, I believe I can handle it in a better way as well.
Right.
Because it's to your point, you stop, you think about it, you just don't act on it, right?
Right. What we're doing here is we're building emotional intelligence. Okay. And that's part of it. It's all, I was watching something recently and they were talking about how there's no emotion in business. It's so not true. There's emotion in everything you do.
Yeah.
It's how you respond versus how you react as to how you get through those situations. And another card in my deck is self-conscious versus self-aware. Okay, where I go into it deeply. Self-conscious, I won't read the whole thing. Self-consciousness comes from a place of negative energy, guilt, conflict, and doubt. Self-consciousness is more outward directed. It's being more concerned about what others are thinking of you and how the situation is going to affect you.
Okay.
You probably react to uncomfortable situations instead of respond. Self-awareness comes from a place of positive energy, acceptance, contentment, and self-assuredness. Self-awareness is more inward-facing. You have an accurate and realistic understanding of how you are responding to situations and how you feel about things.
Wow. Wow. Such pertinent points in there as well. And it's good to understand the difference, because when you do understand the difference, then you know where you need to work on. And
exactly,
when you're in the self-conscious mode and you have all of these negative feelings or negative thoughts, you need to start addressing that and working on that, right? So it gives you a clue and a tip as well.
Right. So to become self-aware, right, you have to first understand that you're being self-conscious.
Yeah.
Right? You may not even recognize that you're being self-conscious. You're just figuring, okay, I'm going through the day. Now that I've introduced the concept to you or to your audience, hopefully they're going to go and say, what am I feeling? And why am I feeling this? And how can I change? How can I get out of my comfort zone?
Wow. I like that. What am I feeling right now? And why am I feeling this as well? Because again, it's asking yourself those deep questions, because there's some root cause within that's causing the person to react in that way, right? Because you said it beautifully before, there's nobody that's perfect.
No,
our lives are always up and downs and stuff like that. But the only way we can get better is to do exactly what you mentioned as well. Evaluate yourself.
And that's where coaching comes in.
Yeah.
Because you have somebody who's supporting you objectively and not judging you.
Yeah.
And giving you the freedom to understand and change. And also hold your feet to the fire a little and say, do you really want to change? So then do the work.
Do the work, exactly.
In a loving environment.
True. I totally agree. And, to the audience out there, I want to make this point very clear, though, as well. Coaching does not mean there is something wrong with you. Coaching simply means that coaches are here to help you better your life, right? Yeah. That's what it is. It doesn't mean, because people have this misconception that if I hire a life coach, so there's something wrong with me. No, there's nothing wrong with you. We all want to improve our lives.
And by the way, if you hire a therapist, that doesn't mean there's something wrong with you either. It means that you have some issues that you need to work through.
Exactly.
And I learned something in coaching training, and I still think about it all the time. Therapy takes you from dysfunctional to functional. Coaching takes you from functional to optimal.
Yeah. Peak performance.
Peak performance.
Right at the top.
Hitting your potential. Going after your potential.
True. It's unearthing what you can actually do. I have a saying here that says, where you're finding that place inside yourself where nothing is impossible. This is what it allows you to do.
Exactly. Impossible could also be I'm possible.
Yeah. Exactly. I am possible.
I am possible.
Yeah. And if you keep telling yourself
the same letters.
Yeah. And you just need to keep programming yourself to say that you are possible, right?
Right. And that's a big part of it. Changing that one word in your mindset.
Yeah.
I can't. Because really what I can't is a cop-out. You're giving yourself a reason to not do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of saying, well, how can I do it? Let me figure out how I can do
it. And figure it out is key, because you figuring it out on your own. Coaches just give you
Nobody can figure it out for you.
Yeah. We're just giving you the tools and techniques out there.
That's right. The coaches are just there to help you figure it out on your own. We ask the questions that you know the answers to, but you're not asking yourself.
You're afraid to ask yourself.
Exactly.
In some cases, yeah. But thank you so much. It was such an honor to have you on our show today. Really, really grateful for your time as well. So, just to our listeners out there, before we go, just go back to cover the 4 steps to keep your feeling from ruling your actions, in summary, and also give us your contact details. I will share it in the description as well, but share that with us.
So it's again using life. Listen to your inner voice and acknowledge your feelings. Identify what those feelings are specifically. Find out why. Question your feelings. Go deep into the questions of why you're feeling those things, to the point that you're even, cross-examining yourself, and then engage in change and take action. Doesn't mean at that moment, but write it down and decide, when am I going to do this?
Yeah.
All right. And to get in touch with me, I made it very simple. Go to connectwithmartin.com.
Connectwithmartin.com. Oh, love it. Connectwithmartin.com. We'll also share.
You can get my cards there. You can find out free stuff. I'm always having different free things there all the time.
Wow, awesome. And just for the audience out there, Martin has a session coming up, a summit coming up in March of next year, right, Martin? Yep. So keep an eye out for that as well.
2023.
2023, keep an eye out for that. Go on to Martin's site and register for it as well. Register in advance. So thank you once again for listening to Inspirational Journeys Through Life with Straight Talk with Nolan. I'm your host, Nolan Play, and it really was an honor and a privilege to speak to Martin Salama today. So much of wisdom out there. We will be sharing this episode, the video of it as well, because we know lots of you still like to watch videos. It will be on our YouTube channel. So subscribe to our YouTube channel. My handle is Straight Talk with Nolan. There's an alarm on the right-hand side. Click on it so you'll be notified whenever there's a new episode being launched, so you never have to miss one ever again. And if you like this episode, please share it with your friends and family. And more so, if you have any comments for Martin, please put it in the chat and we'll get those questions to Martin and he'll gladly answer it for you. Martin, thank you once again for coming on the show. We are really grateful and honored to have you today. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.